Hi, and welcome to the first roundtable discussion of the M Cluster. I'm your host, Slider, and today we'll be talking about the Avengers. With me are my co-hosts. We've got Ty.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Tyrone. You can call me Ty, but, whatever you want to call me is fine. Just to give you a little bit about myself, I have a wide range of interests from video games to photography to female anatomy. Just kidding. Basically, I'm just chiming in to express my views on movies and whatever else comes along. So, yeah. So what makes me qualified to talk about movies? Well, I have an internet connection and half a brain. If that's not enough, then nothing. Enjoy.
All right. And also joining us, we have Brandon.
Good evening, folks. My name is Brandon, as Slider said. I come joining you tonight. I also have a wide range of interests. I've seen a great many movies. Outside of that, we're just going to be talking about movies in general throughout this, whatever you want to call it, discussion.
Alrighty, and last but not least, we have the man with no voice. That would be Dante. Thank you, Dante. All right. So what we've got here is just a group of guys who are looking to say what they got to say about these films. And today we're talking about the Avengers, which we're all quite excited about. It's something that I was waiting for a long time. The first time I saw Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man, I just got really excited. I realized what they were doing. And it's just been a great progression. And I'm really glad that this movie came out when it did. I'm a big fan of Joss Whedon, and I really enjoy the spin that he puts on things. So when this came out, like I said, I can't say how I can stop saying how excited I really was. And I'm just really grateful that this actually came out while I was an adult, so that I could really fully appreciate it. And so we're just going to go ahead and jump in. First of all, what do you guys think about the movie? What was the first thing that stuck out to you?
Well, personally, I really like the balanced ensemble cast that Joss Whedon put together. I thought it was very I don't want to overuse the word brilliant, but I thought it was very, very smart how he got all these different superheroes together in one place and made it make sense. It's not like, oh, you're good, I'm good, let's be good together. No, there was some internal conflict going on. There was rivalries that built during the course of the movie, and it seemed natural, which making something natural with superheroes involved is kind of hard to do, and I really appreciated that.
I also really enjoyed the fact that you got to see some of the classic battles that were in comics, even if it was only for a few minutes here and there. Iron Man against Thor, Thor against Hulk. Those spoke loudly to fans of any of the individual characters as well as just fans of the Avengers. Another thing I enjoyed was probably the Hulk the most.
Well, the Hulk that we saw on screen this time was the Hulk that everybody's been waiting to see. This is by far the single best Hulk action that has ever been on a live screen. And I think part of that is due to the fact that Mark Ruffalo did the motion capture for it instead of everything being CGI, so it just adds that little bit more realism to it.
Actually, I didn't know that about Mark Ruffalo. I didn't know he did the motion capture.
Yeah, there was actually a interview that was done with the character that played Loki, the actor that played Loki, and one of the things he said he really enjoyed was seeing all the superheroes walking out on set into their costume and just having this big moment, and then seeing Mark Ruffalo in what he called green and white striped pajamas. And that's what they were using. They had all the motion capture balls on the suit. So everybody got to act very seriously, and then he was in these just funny-looking clothes, and that's something that I wish I could have seen in person. I look forward to the outtakes in the DVD.
He probably looked like a DC villain.
And So one of the things that I was really excited about when the movie started is right off the bat they showed that this movie was going to have great writing. It was going to have banter. You got to see what happened at S.H.I.E.L.D., which I think this is the first time we've ever seen the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters on a big screen. And then we got to see Black Widow in her environment, and just, they didn't take it so seriously. It was, that first line when she says, "What do you want? I'm working." I just thought that was great. And the reactions that the villains that she was questioning had were really funny as well.
I think that Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, I think she did well. I didn't like Hawkeye as much. Just things were lacking, I guess, from his character later on in the movie once he came out of his psychosis, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, his hypnotism.
In what way? What? Like, can you give me anything specific?
I didn't really see anything that made him Hawkeye. He just seemed like a guy. That was pretty much it.
Well, Hawkeye and Black Widow both were not superheroes. They were just exceptionally skilled people.
Yeah, I mean, he was phenomenal with a bow. I mean, I did enjoy, especially when he just kind of shot back and hit one of the cruisers going by. That was cool, but just for his personality, I didn't really see anything come out that we did see majorly in Black Widow.
This is true. Black Widow did have a lot more character development, but he spent half of the movie as a zombie, basically, as a slave to Loki.
I hope that if they do another one that they develop his character a little more than they did.
Yeah, that would be interesting. What about you, Tyrone? What are the things that stick out to you?
What really stuck out was just Tony Stark being Tony Stark. Like, he never stopped being Iron Man. He never stopped being who he was, and that was interesting to me. Since he was always inquisitive. He was always he was always him. He did his homework for the battles. He gathered intel on an intel agency, and he was working on how to save the world all at the same time. So he didn't stop being him, which is very interesting. How he just continued to shine through.
Well, it was interesting that he was. One of the lines he had in the movie is an intelligence agency that fears intelligence.
Yeah.
I really appreciated when he said that. That was a good way to get his point across. And he was able to come through and show that not... Okay, so the line where he's talking to Captain America, and he says, "Everything that's special about you came out of a bottle." And he's talking about being an average person, an average... Joe, if you would, which obviously he's not. He's a genius, billion-dollar playboy. But he just kind of gets across that I care, even though I don't do it in the way that you do. And that's something that really resonated with me in the way that he portrayed his character.
Yeah, Captain America was trying to get on Iron Man that he's like, oh, you don't, you're not willing to give it all. You're not in this 100%. And it seemed to me throughout the movie like he was pretty much the only one giving it 100%. He was, he saved the day numerous times, and that was him. He put himself on the line more than anyone else did. So. Well,
that's a little hard to say too. I mean, Captain America basically died 70 years ago, and everything he ever knew and loved is gone. So it's a little hard to say he's the only one that put anything on the line or gave up anything.
Well, you can say the same thing about Iron Man. He pretty much died 10 years ago, and he still has the little shards of metal going towards his heart, dying every day.
Yeah, well, he had a rebirth. Captain America just woke up.
Sort of rebirth to me.
World.
I'm sorry, say again, Brandon?
I was saying, yeah, he just woke up to a different world.
Right. Captain America didn't go through any changes. He's still who he is. Tony Stark actually sees the world through new eyes.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that they said, that when they talked about the generator in his chest, that's how it's keeping him alive. I really enjoyed how he played that with Mark Ruffalo and saying that I don't see this as a burden, I see it as a gift. And I think that kind of accentuates the whole the progression of who he is in terms of a person and then a hero.
Yeah, and hopefully that helps Bruce Banner out in his progression when he's working in the new Avengers Tower with Tony Stark, how he can not only channel his anger, he can actually grow as a person. And
well, Thor grew a lot too. I mean, especially if you look at the movie Thor, where at the beginning where he was just a spoiled, powerful kid. That's pretty much what he was. And him getting to know humans brought a whole lot out of him, and now he actually does care about everything. I mean, he still had his feelings for his brother, as he said many times through the movie. Don't talk about him. That is my brother. But he does care about humanity in general. I think they all do in their own way. Bruce Banner wants to keep everyone safe by staying away from them.
Right. He had some interesting points about his character there. But before we go down that road, I want to talk about an article I read on the Independent Film Channel's website where the author of the article called the Avengers the anti-Dark Knight. And what he meant by that was that the DC character being portrayed in Christopher Nolan's films is dark and gritty and all about self-sacrifice, where the characters in the Avengers are more lighthearted. And while I understand where he's coming from, I disagree with some of his points, because there is a lot of darkness in this movie. They just chose to handle it differently. The darkness isn't missing, it's just portrayed differently. I mean, Hawkeye and Black Widow are assassins, and Tony Stark used to make weapons that killed millions and millions of people, and now he's trying to atone for that. Captain America, like I said before, lost everything. He's lost his entire life. Now he's just in service because he doesn't have anything else.
And Thor wanted to destroy an entire civilization originally.
Well, he didn't just want to destroy an entire civilization. Even after he progressed, after he grew, he lost his brother. He lost a member of his family for all intents and purposes. Found out his brother was evil. Found out his brother lied to him about his father dying. That's some pretty dark shit.
He's adopted.
I did like that.
Yeah, that was a pretty good line. So there are a lot of dark elements to these characters. They just chose not to focus on them. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, because I really like the Christopher Nolan take on Batman, and I can't wait for the third movie to come out, which is something we'll be talking about when it does. But the idea that because their banter, because their relationships don't reflect the darkness that they've experienced, doesn't mean, or to say that it doesn't affect them. I really disagreed with that. I really disagreed with the way the author wrote the article.
Well, I think that's Marvel in general. Marvel in general, from what I've seen and everything, there can be a lot of death, and half the universe can die, but it always pulls back to being more lighthearted in its theme. Dark Knight in general was supposed to be dark. It was meant to be dark, as opposed to how Marvel in general handles things.
Okay.
Well, the thing is like the original Batman movies that came out like in the 80s, such like that. They were really lighthearted too. They were really not as softer, not as dark, but it came off campy.
Yeah, it could be different era then.
Yeah,
no one wanted to see the dark stuff.
Yeah, it came off it just came off wrong. It was never matched, even when I was young, you know, it never matched my vision of Batman who he should have been, you know. It matched more of like the TV show that I refused to watch, where they're all running around in tights. But not the comic book Batman. The Dark Knight in this era is more of the comic book Batman that I wanted to see. More of a detective in the shadows, more of a struggling soul. You know?
And I agree with all of you on that, and I don't want us to get too far off on this topic. But if you go further into the DC universe, then you see some of the superheroes working together, particularly Superman and Batman. They both have their dark grittiness about them, but their character banter is very funny and very lighthearted. Even though they don't like each other, you know, and
not at
just
all.
the interactions between them put off that you know, it gives you the humor. It might be a darker humor, but it's still a humorous side of things. And that's all I want to say about that. I don't want to get too far off topic.
Well, that's why I enjoyed some of the banter that went between the superheroes and Avengers. You know, especially Captain America and Stark. You know, what are you without the suit? That was perfect. His response was perfect. You know, billionaire, philanthropist, playboy, genius.
Right. And I like Black Widow's reaction to when he answered that question too. He's got him there. But one of the things that, particularly about that scene, Dante had pointed out to me was that they used something that I believe one of the directors or one of the writers uses a lot. It's a little formulaic, but it works really well. It's saying things in threes, and then on the third time or the fourth time, I forget which, saying the same thing, but it having a very different meaning. You know, when they were arguing with each other, he was saying, Captain America kept saying, "Put on the suit, put on the suit," and then when the things hit the fan and they got blown out of the room, he's like, "Put on the suit," you know, and it was something very different, I really enjoyed that about that relationship that they showed there. I also want to point out with Scarlett Johansson, that was something that really surprised me. Her performance as Black Widow, I think, was really well done. I'm not a terribly big fan of Scarlett Johansson, but I think she did a really good job in this, and that really hit me when she first went to go talk to Bruce Banner in India. When they were talking and they were in the room by themselves, and Bruce Banner jumps at her and yells and says, "Don't lie to me," and she pulls that gun on him, you could really see the fear in her eyes. And that was something that they kept consistent throughout the entire movie. She was afraid of the Hulk.
Yeah.
And
she doesn't fear anyone else.
Right. And I think that was done really well. And someone pointed out to me that it was an issue of control. She
has obviously no one has any control over the Hulk.
Right. But she's typically used to being able to control the situation.
Yeah.
And I'm being told that I just stole Tay's line.
That's fine.
But no, her performance was really well done in this. I think she fit it really well. The one that I actually was concerned about was when they announced Mark Ruffalo, because unlike a lot of people, I liked the Ed Norton Hulk.
I did. I enjoyed Ed Norton a lot, much better than what was his name? Bruce Banner or Eric Bana? Eric
Bana, yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah, it was. It was awful. And I'm really glad that they decided to do this. And unfortunately, I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that they don't plan on doing another standalone Hulk movie, which I really wish they would. And I've also heard that they're not going to have a Hulk cameo in Iron Man 3, which almost doesn't make any sense to me because he left with Tony Stark at the end of the movie, and Tony Stark had offered him a job at...
like I said, that could just be a trick statement. You know, they could say, hey, you know, the Hulk will not have a cameo. Okay, fine. Bruce Banner could have a cameo, though.
Yeah, this is true. This is very true. But I want to go over some of the things that I found when I was researching for this discussion. One of the things that I didn't even know until the very end of the movie was that Marvel was a subsidiary of Disney. I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah,
and the
I
fact that-
hated
Go ahead.
that when I found that out.
I don't, because Disney has backing and they're allowing Marvel to do what they want to do.
That I'm thankful for, at least, was that they're allowing Marvel to do what they want to do. But when I first heard that Marvel or that Disney was buying out Marvel, I was like, "What the crap is that? They're going to turn everything into little fluffy cartoons. It's going to be terrible."
And that obviously was not the case here. I'm really glad that they allowed Joss Whedon the freedom that they did in making this movie, and just the difference that it makes to have someone making the movie that really has respect for the source material. I mean, it just makes a huge, huge difference. One of the things... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would say one thing I am glad about that Joss Whedon didn't do, I'm glad he didn't destroy someone's relationship.
Hey, you know, there's still the whole thing with Thor and his love interest, and there's the captain and his love interest.
Well, he never got to meet the cellist or talk to the cellist again.
That's true. He never got. That's right. He killed the one guy who was getting ready to see the cellist.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Clark Gage's character, the agent.
Oh, okay.
Or Phil.
Yeah.
He was seeing this cellist, and they talk about her twice in the movie, and then they kill him off. So that's one thing that you could get the Whedon-esque take on it.
Well, they maybe killed him off.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. I'm not going to speculate about that one too much. Agent Coulson was a very well-liked character. So they may very well find a way to bring him back.
Well, bringing it back to the choosing of the director, I think since the Avengers was highly anticipated, backed by Disney and Marvel, that they could take a chance on Joss Whedon. You know, Joss Whedon is not a big blockbuster movie director. He does very good with shows and very, very good with writing with ensemble casts, but he's not a big action star director.
Up to this point, he hasn't been. But Joss Whedon has one of the largest followings of any director working today. I mean, everything he does gets a cult following.
And also, as far as a financial standpoint, he's relatively cheap. Well, at least he was before the Avengers came out.
Yeah, that's actually one of my concerns. I hope that the success of this movie doesn't change the way he does anything, because I really like the way he makes his shows and movies. The next thing that I want to do, kind of tied into what we're saying here, is Joss Whedon really likes to reuse his actors, and I'm noticing that more and more with some of the authors directors that are out there now. But Joss Whedon tends to do this a lot, and in reading through some of the people that were trying out for this movie, one of them was Miranda Baccarin. She was going to play the part of Agent Maria Hill, who, as you guys may know, is played by Colby Smulders, who is Robin on How I Met Your Mother. What's interesting about that is that Allison Hannigan, who's her co-star on How I Met Your Mother, who is a very... Her and Joss Whedon go way back. She's an alumni, was the one that suggested her for the part. All right? And Miranda Baccarin, who is from Serenity, read for that part, who is also a Joss Whedon alumni. There is a Jessica Lucas, who played in Cloverfield, or her more menial roles, in my opinion, in 90210 and Melrose Place. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who is going to be in the upcoming movie Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which I am looking forward to.
Yeah, I am looking forward to that. Amanda is not.
Well, she could stay home. I'm going to get in trouble when she watches it. But another thing is the way the actors devote themselves to these movies. Chris Hemsworth had to change his entire diet in order to keep the physique that he built in order to play Thor. You know, I mean, this is not a little thing for him. And one of the interesting quotes I heard was something Mark Ruffalo said. He referred to playing the Hulk as this era's Hamlet. And I think that's a pretty big statement. You know, you're talking about William Shakespeare, like the granddaddy of all writers, right? There have been a lot of different people that have played Hamlet, so it's kind of an interesting take on it. And how he's saying, you know, I'm glad that they gave me this role, and a lot of other people have done it. I'm really hoping that they keep him.
Well, I think they will. I think he did a great job, and he's actually excited about being Bruce Banner. I have no. I didn't read anything that he wasn't going to play. I've read that he signed on for at least a couple more movies, like he signed a contract. So I think he will continue to be our Bruce Banner.
I think he will too. I think I haven't read anything to confirm it, but I believe that Ed Norton's head got a little too big for him, and he probably wanted rights to modify the script as he did with The Incredible Hulk.
Okay. Well, one of the things that he said about the character was, he says, Bruce Banner is a guy who's struggling with two sides of himself, the dark and the light. Everything he does is filtered through issues of control, which I think is kind of funny based on what you said with Ed Norton, who wanted more control over the character. He also describes the Hulk, Bruce Banner's alter ego, as a loose cannon. He's a teammate that none of them want, or they're not sure that they want, and it's like throwing a grenade into the middle of the group and hoping it turns out well. So he understands the volatile nature of the Hulk. So, again, just taking the role seriously, taking the character seriously, and respecting where that comes from goes so far into making these things so much better. There's some complicated issues when it comes to these characters and the progression of these movies, because some of the other movies have been made by different studios. So Fox is involved, Sony's involved, and they own the rights to these characters. So Marvel is in the process of trying to bring these characters back home so that they can get people who are going to treat the characters with respect and really play them like they're actual characters and not something out of a comic book.
What does Fox still own the rights to?
The Fantastic Four. They did that movie.
Which is funny.
Yeah, and they did the way they wrote the agreement was that they own the Fantastic Four and associated characters, right? So,
Silver Surfer.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, Silver Surfer,
Right.
Most of the villains.
Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
Doom was one, yes. So that's something that comes into play where, they not just the logistics of making the movie, but the legalities involved in them bringing this to full screen.
But wasn't Chris Evans also Human Torch?
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's funny.
So it's going to be a little struggle there. He's going to have to switch suits very fast.
Well, no, there's no way to let him play both roles.
No. Flame on.
Conflict of interest.
Right. But just keeping in line with this theme of respecting the source material, there's a thing here about Joss Whedon. It says, according to Joss Whedon, the film is strongly influenced by the 1960s Avengers comics, which he was a fan of while growing up. He says, in those comics, these people should not be in the same room, let alone on the same team, and that's the definition of family. And he really talks about the dysfunctionality that is going on with the Avengers and the problems that they have with their relationships. It's just really interesting.
Yeah. But where's Black Panther, though? Where can we see him?
Black Panther wasn't always part of the Avengers. I believe one of the original members wasn't even in the movie. Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. Yeah.
Ant-Man wasn't, and Captain America was not a founding member. Captain America was thawed out in episode 4 of the Avengers. So they've taken some license with the original story, but I still think that they're doing it justice in the way that they're portraying it.
I think they could have a lot more cameos go in and out too. They don't have to be permanent members of the Avengers. They just could just come in, do a part, and leave out. Kind of rotate them out if you like.
Spider-Man can definitely come in.
Oh yeah, of course.
Well, Marvel was able to obtain the rights to that. So,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not Tobey Maguire. I really enjoyed Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's the reboot.
I agree and disagree. I like Tobey Maguire in the first one. By the time I got around to Spider-Man 3, I really, really, really hated his character. I think they just did a really bad job with the writing, and it's probably not Tobey Maguire's fault, but I really disliked Spider-Man 3. But that's a whole other topic. Looking forward to the DVD release, there's some information here. It says, when Joss Whedon cut the original movie, it was over 3 hours long. There's about 30 minutes of excise footage that's going to be in the DVD release, most of it revolving around Captain America. And this is some of the things that we talked about walking right out of the movie. There's Steve Rogers, who's Captain America, was going to be reunited with his love interest from the first film, you know, who was going to be an old woman at that time.
Okay. I was going to say how.
Right. Well, no, and obviously they decided to cut that out because of the reaction you just had right there. So it wouldn't have really worked out. So, but no need to do that to the captain.
Although at the end, it looks like that chick might have an interest in him, the one that he saved with the blonde hair at the end.
That
Beth.
chick. Let's have some respect for her. Her name's Beth, okay? It was right on her shirt.
I know you were looking at her shirt.
Yes, that's absolutely right. One of the things that I found interesting is the parallels that they did in order to tie in to the comics. One of the things that they did with Thor is a large part of the time he's wearing his Asgardian outfit out sleeves, and that's a specific nod to the first few episodes of Thor, or first issues of Thor, where that's what his uniforms look like. We also get to see him without a cape, which is not something you get to see very often. And then he evolves into the Thor that is the established comic book character with the full armor and whatnot. And that's something that Joss Whedon did specifically in order to honor the source material. There's also something that you and I had talked about, Tape, where they hired actual military personnel to shoot some of these scenes to add reality. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, one of my old roommates, when we went to school together in Arizona, Tim Mackin, let's go in if you see this. He was actually one of the gunners in Cleveland, Ohio, on top of the 50 cal when they pulled in the National Guard, which is funny, he's an actual National Guard member. And I really thought it was interesting that they would go as far as to do that, because they could easily hired actors just to sit in a truck and pull in. But it was really good nod to our service members and having a local asset right there in Cleveland, Ohio, just put in the National Guard, just for maybe 30 seconds of camera time, but still it was pretty decent of them. They didn't have to do that.
Something that was interesting about that, too, the scenes that were filmed in Ohio were originally supposed to be filmed in Michigan. And the reason they moved it is because Michigan decided to repeal their film tax rebate. So they were going to pay more taxes by shooting in Michigan. They decided to move. So that's an interesting little tidbit. Something other people I'm sure know by now. The first film grossed. This is the first film to gross over $200 million in its first 3 days. So that's quite an accomplishment. Another little kind of inside joke that they did is they refer to Loki as a dethroned king when they're talking about him. And then when the Avengers first find him, he's supposed to be in Germany, and the address that they use is 22 Koingstrasse, which Koing is the German word for king, so he's at 22 King Street.
That's awesome.
So I thought that was a little funny. Also, one of the just attention to detail things is when Loki and Thor leave the plane and are on the top of the mountain, there are two ravens that fly by. And in Norse mythology, Odin had two ravens that would give him information about what was going on Midgard, which is Earth. So there's a lot of interesting things. I can go on and on about stuff, but I think it was really just overall well done. A lot of people obviously enjoy it. I've seen it 5 times, so there's a lot of good stuff there. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Any final thoughts, Ty?
No, that's just I really am looking forward to the next Thor movie, the next Captain America, the next Iron Man, and of course the next Avengers. So
what about Nick Fury? They're making a Nick Fury movie.
Yeah, I'd like to see how that goes along. But that's pretty much it. I really enjoyed the movie, and I was really appreciative that that it was done in the way it was.
Yeah. Brandon?
Outside of, like I said, I just wanted more character development for Hawkeye. Outside of that, I had nothing bad to say about the movie. For a first, I mean, I really can't think of anything bad about the movie. So, I mean, like I said, you saw it 5 times. I saw it 3. I look forward to seeing the up-and-coming movies from Marvel Studios in general. They've done very well since they have established themselves as a movie studio.
Absolutely. Of course, you know, I've got nothing negative to say about it, which in the upcoming conversations that we have with this group, we'll find is a very uncommon thing. I've always got something negative to say. So the fact that I came out of this movie feeling that there was nothing missing from it was just, I think, a big thing in my eyes. Okay, so I think it's time to select our next movie. So we've got that. But we're going to do this at random. What we did is we each selected 20 movies that we wanted to talk about, and we are going to use bingo in order to choose these movies, which ones come next, because we didn't want to set a schedule, so we want to keep things fresh. So we're going to go ahead and pick the number of the movie now. So if you guys... And that's Dante.
B11.
Alrighty, and what movie does that correlate to?
Let's see, is this even seeable or viewable?
No, it's just a big blur. Okay, so Dante, what is B11?
He's checking now.
No.
Serenity.
Serenity.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm quite happy about that choice.
Yeah, I bet you are.
I think you
It
guys
was an awesome movie, but yeah.
You guys have great taste in selecting random films. And I'm sure you will all have nothing but nice things to say about this movie.
You just wait until Star Trek gets picked.
So, at any rate, I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to doing this more and more. Again, we're going to be on Sunday nights. The roundtable discussion is live. However, we'll be doing some produced content that we'll be hosting at our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/VMCluster, all one word. Or you can catch us on Google. You can catch us on Facebook. We're on Twitter @VMCluster. And we're just looking forward to getting more viewers and getting you guys to participate and providing more content. Hopefully, we'll provide some insight and maybe give you a few laughs. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight. Tyrone?
On that note, like us on Facebook, MCluster. Follow us on Twitter, the MCluster. And, of course, find us on Google+, like the page, or one-up the page, and put us in your circles. Go ahead and follow us. We hope to see you soon.
Brandon?
See you guys soon.
All right. And that's a wrap.